Okay, all right. It is 8:04, and I will read the guidelines. Um, we are, just want to make sure I got this right. Okay. We're using Zoom for this meeting, which allows for the public to participate in the meeting as an attendee. The chair can request that members of the public provide their names for purposes of keeping accurate minutes of the meeting. Attendees must register to participate. The registration link is unique to the meeting. The registration link can be found in the description of the Nantucket Government TV YouTube live feed for the meeting. Attendees will join in listening mode. They can click the raise hand button if they wish to speak. The chair will call on those who have raised their hands in order that they were raised. All questions should be directed through the chair. As a preliminary matter, this is David Sharp, the Visitor Services Coordinator. Permit me to confirm that all members and persons anticipated on the agenda are present and can hear me. Members, when I call your name, please respond in the affirmative. Mary Malaves.
Here.
Liz Holland.
Here.
Matt Peel.
Here.
Peter Morrison.
Here.
Niles Parker.
Here.
Sarah Boyce.
Here.
And Chantal Blois Murphy.
Here.
Okay. And Peter Burke.
Here.
Okay. Good morning. This open meeting of the Visitor Services Advisory Committee is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will feature public comment. For this meeting of the Visitor Services Advisory Committee is convening by video conference via Zoom app as posted on the town's website, identifying how the public may join. Please note that this meeting is being recorded and that all attendees are participating by video conference. Accordingly, please be aware that any other folks may be able to see you, and take care not to screen share your computer. Anything that you broadcast may be captured by the recording. All supporting materials that have been provided members of this body are available on the town's website unless otherwise noted. The public is encouraged to follow along using posted agenda unless the chair notes otherwise. We are now turning to the first item on the agenda. Before we do so, permit me to cover some ground rules for effective and clear conduct of our business and to ensure accurate meeting minutes. The chair will introduce each speaker on the agenda. After they conclude their remarks, the chair will go down the line of members, inviting each by name to provide any comment, questions, or motions. Please hold until your name is called. Further, please remember to mute your phone or computer if you are not speaking. Please remember to speak clearly in a way that helps generate accurate minutes. For any response, please wait until the chair yields the floor to you and state your name before speaking. If members wish to engage in conversation with the other members, please do so through the chair, taking care to identify yourself. After members have spoken, the chair will afford public comment to those members of the public that have joined the meeting via Zoom. Members of the public who wish to speak must state their names and be acknowledged by and speak through the chair. Finally, each vote taken in this meeting will be conducted by a roll call vote. Thank you.
Thank you, David. We should know those by heart, but it's always good to refresh our memory and have it recorded for the minutes. All right, welcome everyone. This is the October 10th meeting of the Visitor Services Advisory Committee. First item on the agenda for a vote is the approval of the September 12th minutes. They were all circulated with the most recent agenda. Is there any discussion or changes to the minutes? All right, hearing none, may I have a motion to approve as written?
So moved by Peter.
All right, thank you, Matt. Second, Peter Morrison, second. Thank you all. All right, roll call vote to accept the minutes. Liz Holland.
Accept.
Sarah.
Aye.
Niles Parker.
I was not there, so I should abstain, probably.
Thank you. Peter Morrison,
Accept.
Matt Peel,
Aye.
and I as chair accept the minutes as distributed and recorded without correction. All right, moving along. Next item on the agenda, welcome. We have a guest with us this morning. Thank you, Peter Burke from the Nantucket Island Chamber of Commerce, for being here and having a conversation on how the summer went, plans for the future. And I think my focus would be anything that we as Visitor Services Committee can work together with you. I know Shanta does, but anything for planning for the future. And obviously, I'm always looking for budget items as we move into another fiscal year.
Sure.
So, welcome, Peter. Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it. It's always nice to see this team. It's I know we all cross paths in the busy height of the summer, so it's nice to kind of relax after the last holiday weekend. So yeah, things went well. I think by all, it's really tough for us to measure. That boiled up question was like, how was the summer? Because if we ask anecdotally, we get 100 different answers from 100 different people. I think in general, we're seeing what everyone else saw, right? There's the top end softening of the long-term high-end rentals, that full house for the high-end rentals. But if you looked at the use your eyeballs, there's a lot of people here and having a good time. So we were trying our best to measure it. We had access to state traveler data, and we didn't see actually that access disappeared because the software wasn't up to snuff for what we needed. And so it was tough for us to get concrete data. So we were trying to take it in more manageable bites. And if we look at, Restaurant Week, obviously was one of the reasons we were on the call today as well. And that was the first, that was one of the first attempts for us really to respond to members, right? So our kind of line in the sand was membership. We did not discourage any non-member restaurant from participating. But in my conversations with a few friends that I have that do have restaurants that for some reason haven't joined the chamber yet, I did say that our advertising would end at the water's edge with members, because that's our responsibility. That's who we're paid by. That's who kind of foots the bill for us. That was one of the more managed campaigns, I would say. Like, we took a set dollar amount and we had really focused where we were going to advertise that. And we would measure success by how many people came to our Restaurant Week website, right? That we're not tapped into the point of sale systems. We did see 12,000 visitors to that webpage, which was like 4 times more than any other site on our website. So we look at that as a success. In talking with restaurants, there was 2 responses. One was, hey, thank you very much for paying attention. We asked for some help driving traffic and you responded with this program. Not every restaurant participated. It doesn't work for everybody. But I think the other water cooler talk is, yeah, they stack the till. Whether or not Restaurant Week attendees turn into future customers, that's really that's the ultimate goal. And that, again, there's some stories that say, yes, that did happen. We did put out a poll to the 22 participating restaurants to see if they would do it again. And every single respondent so far of the 6 have said they would. I think we caught them and heading into a long weekend. So I would call that program a success. It was pretty low impact for us. Other than creating advertising, we really didn't have to do any heavy lifting. We left that all to the restaurants. And I think that's setting the table for future programming for the 6 staff, and the 20 board members to assume they know what's best for every section of business. I don't think is right. We've never have, and we just need to recognize that. So for us to say, hey, restaurants, do whatever you need, I would love to approach the hotels. I know there's not a lodging association stiffly formed right now. I know we know all the players, and Mark Anthony Crimmy is on our board. But they're having a hard time getting together, just like the Restaurant Association has kind of fallen to the wayside. We're not trying to replace those, but I think in their absence, we're doing our best to prop up those groups. Again, where the rubber meets the road is we are beholden to membership. So you do lose some people on the edges, but I think moving forward, we will approach those groups directly. Hey, hotels, what can we do for you? Hey, restaurants, what can we do? Retailers, we put a fashion show together. We had never done that. It wasn't, reinventing the wheel. Fashion shows happened, but it was fun. It was great. And we had a good response to it. That one, I don't think we really marketed off island as well as I would like to have had, but it was a year 1 event, and by all measurable things, a success. So kind of wrap it up, I think moving forward, we are getting into a lot more targeted marketing and advertising. And in general, I think this team knows that with our Mott affiliation, we receive state money to advertise Nantucket. And just to reinforce from the last year, we are now being more selective instead of, we'll call it general marketing, of which we still do. Visit Nantucket's an important drum for us to beat. I think we're being really focused on who we want to visit, targeting the right type of visitor. And to me, that's someone who is eco-conscious, maybe doesn't bring their car, rides the bike, someone who's, savvy on the buses. So we're doing our best to target our marketing towards, I would say, a visitor that will be able to fit what some of the challenges we have, which is, we're really busy, and, we're doing our best as a community to resolve some issues that all the communities are facing, but it's still our responsibility as a chamber and as a Mott outpost, to advertise the island. I'm happy to take any questions on those. I can go on for a few more minutes about Mott and our plans moving forward, but I want to give the chance for the group to ask any questions if they have any.
Thanks, Peter. I have a couple of comments before we continue. I was happy to see Restaurant Week revived. I mean, it was a program that went on here for years, and it usually went on when the restaurants needed a boost at certain times to keep staff employed and just to help and bring in people that normally wouldn't. So I was glad to see that happen. I'm assuming it came out of the restaurants wanting to do it, because you had a significant list of people. So that was, I think, welcome for people that are here, especially on a midweek basis. I think it probably helps some of the guest houses that have midweek pricing, to have something, at a sort of a non-event time. Have you gotten any negative comments about some of the press about how we are one of the most expensive places to visit?
Yes, most of them came from friends of mine who said, "Hey, nice work. You're making it hard for us to visit," as a joke. But I think it's not. I was happy actually that some of the subsequent reporting was, well, if you take different times a year and you're talking about the Northern Hemisphere, like we all know, it's not the cheapest place in the world to visit. I haven't received any, I would call it legitimate concerns. Like I haven't had any member business come up and say, "Hey, how are you counteracting that press?" I think what we do is what we've been doing is showing people that you can have a great, launching pad day trip if you feel so inclined from the Cape. If you're making your family's vacation the Cape for monetary reasons, then hop a ferry, rent a bike, and have a blast. And so I think we're just conscious of promoting those ways to experience Nantucket rather than, let's say, directly countering the reporting of the high costs.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Peter. As I said, I'm very happy to see the Restaurant Week was a success for the restaurants that participated and the visitors. All right, from the committee, are there any questions for Peter moving forward? Matt?
Matt, yeah.
Hey, yeah, I just couple comments and question too. Just kind of piggybacking on what Mary said as well as far as Restaurant Week. I think it's great for locals as well. I think it really exposes a lot of restaurants maybe they just don't have the time to get to or can't get a reservation in, and then lowers the dollar price, kind of gives them that that preset menu to experience those restaurants. So I think it's great all around, and I was really happy to see it back. So and then question, I know we had chatted over at I think we were at Ethos one night about the pop-ups and things like that, and I was just wondering if you heard anything back from the town or how that's affecting the retail downtown as well, and kind of the feeling around that.
No, and then just to bring it up to speed, we had one retailer reach out to us directly and ask us if we knew of any of the regulations, and I can't remember the exact numbering or the verbiage behind it, but basically our anti-franchise law, right? Our no uniforms, no set menus, whatever it is, 14 locations, that ordinance or bylaw. One retailer said, "Hey, I have a next door neighbor business who's bringing in pop-ups, and those pop-ups would in theory violate that statute. Do you know of anyone in the town that would know?" And I didn't have a good answer for her. I did a couple calls around and emails. It was, late summer, so there wasn't a lot of action on it. And the retailer wasn't completely fired up. It was more just like, I think it's the first question and, an action plan that maybe they have to try to address those concerns. But I haven't heard anything. To be perfectly honest, I hadn't gone much more than that first cursory round of questions. But I would love to have that answered, if only to provide more guidance. I don't think anyone is doing it maliciously to get around that bylaw. I think they're, the host of that business is looking for a way to draw people in, which, hey, no bad ideas in brainstorming. I just want to make sure if we are, our approach, I know like Hill House is one example that was not cited, is a retailer that brings in certain designer dresses for a certain number of days a week or for the summer. I would have no problem with that, but I want to make sure if it was an issue with the town that we would be able to provide the guidance, right? So that's what we're trying to be as an organization, as a resource, so that member businesses have an understanding of what they can and can't do. And I'm happy to reignite that conversation with anyone that, if appropriate.
Chantal, you have your hand up?
Yeah, thank you. Peter, when those concerns come up, can you just reach out to, because this is the first I'm hearing of it.
Yeah.
So I'd love to talk about this offline and
Sure.
get you the answers that you need.
Perfect.
Continue to use me as a resource. I am here. I'm happy to help.
Thank you.
Peter?
Yeah, as you spoke, I was just putting pieces together in my mind and saying this whole thing about restaurant week. It hadn't occurred to me until you mentioned it that this is a real draw for the day trippers if it's a restaurant that says, we offer an early bird special so you can make the ferry. And I'm wondering, is there any way of integrating this message, integrating this option so that it is explicitly mentioned on the visitor services website? Like, whatever we say about a day trip to Nantucket, sort of like a model of, you could take this ferry, get there, do whatever you want, have dinner on restaurant week, and get out on the last ferry, so that people say, oh, I never thought of that. That's a new model. And we have some when I mentioned this before, the problem is that when people are already have made their plans and are in Hyannis, now you're saying, well, why don't you change your plans? But the people consulting the thing and saying, I want to go as a day tripper, or I want to go, what could I do? And the answer is, you could have dinner before you left. So I'm just wondering, do we have anything up on our website, David?
Yeah. David, you're muted.
Okay, yes, so we do the weekly restaurant list that is online as well as a handout. And that week I made sure that all the 22 participants were listed in there and what they were serving. And then what I did was did a separate list altogether of just only the restaurant list participants, and then we handed that out to people. So there were people looking for that specifically, and then we were also pointing it out to people that were coming in. So it was there, and we make sure to include any special things that are going on with those restaurants, including Restaurant Week.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
great. Okay, so you've already fulfilled the concept.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thanks, Peter. David, I did see that report, and it's, as always, the Chamber and Visitor Services has always communicated with each other. So it's nice to see that reinforced for the public.
And David, I would applaud your list as the best in the business, the restaurant open list. We get 10 call-ins a week. We send them right to yours. So thanks for keeping a really great list. We really appreciate that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments for Peter? Well, I'd like to say I think the Chamber is doing a fabulous job in meeting your members' requests and needs. Obviously, Restaurant Week being one of the most recent. I know you just had cobblestones and cranberries, so hopefully you'll have a report on that later. And on to Christmas trees, Thanksgiving, and
Noel season. It's Noel season. I'm sure half the team here is volunteering, and half the others can get pressed into service if they're not careful. So
Yeah.
I will end with, we are still waiting, to be perfectly honest. The Mass Office of Travel and Tourism has not released their annual funding for us. So if you've seen a dip in our off-island marketing, it's because we won't spend any money we don't have in hand. So I'm happy to, set a time at a later date. I know you asked about future plans in your opening. We have, a loose baked cake. We're just waiting to see what we can cook, to see how much money we have. Yeah, I'd be happy to jump in a later meeting and give more of a comprehensive report once we have a better idea of what we can do and what we're going to do.
Yes, Sarah?
Yeah, just a quick question, because you mentioned the funding specifically and thinking of like kind of immediate next steps. So Stroll coming up, are you on a calendar year budget with that, or are you waiting for some of the Stroll advertising dollars to come through? I'm just curious where that, like, waiting for the advertising.
So we do a fiscal year, the state funding, which is obviously starts in July. So the good news is a majority of our Noel, the way the stipulations are with Mott, we can't advertise within a 50-mile radius because of their rules. That's part of the definition of a visitor. There are some exceptions, and Stroll is one of them. So because we would argue that travelers from outside of 50-mile radius will be looking at the local media, planning their Stroll holidays. We have some gray area where we've had successful advertising. We are not planning to change what we've done in the past. We'll have the suite of the local media that we've always advertised with, and the regular scheduled. We'll have our own Stroll programming. What might change a little bit depending on the state funding would be if we decide to do like a Boston market advertisement, like, hey, don't forget about, Nantucket is a great place to go for early December trip. Those are the dollars that we're just making sure, like, what do we have for a campaign? And it might go, depend where we're going to go based on the dollars we'll have. But we're not expecting any major change in the dollar value. It's just a matter of when we have the funding.
Thanks. Can I ask a quick follow-up?
Sure, Sarah, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious because we probably won't see you because we only meet once a month. If, in terms of both the Thanksgiving holiday and then the Noel, the Stroll weekend, are there any changes that the chamber has been pulling out? I'm just curious how you see those programming kind of in line with how it has been the last couple of years, or is there anything new and different?
Yeah, I think from a day-to-day standpoint, we're very cognizant that we are holding a lot of tradition in our hands, right? I have a lot of fond memories of just the 14 years I've been involved with Thanksgiving out here. It's really special, and so is Stroll. So we are doing our best. I say what we will change would be we would adopt all of the everything from the language we had for daffodil when daffodil weather was not looking as great as it was, in response to kind of what the town had asked us from a messaging standpoint, encouraging smart traveling. So if the weather's looking, progressively worse as we get closer and closer to dates, you'll see our messaging ramp up with, it might be best not to come to Nantucket, which we never want to say, obviously, because that's very not our job, but we have to be live in reality. And if that's the messaging we need to provide. So that type of messaging might, fall in line with what the town has asked us to do. And we're happy to be, provide that messaging as responsible event organizers. But for the most part, from a day-to-day standpoint, tree lighting will go on. The tree will light, I promise this time. There was a 106-second delay that I found on NCTV when the tree had been unplugged from its source power while we were away and the Secret Service was doing their sweep. So there was the slightly embarrassing and heart attack inducing delay in the tree lighting. I will glue and tape those plugs together, and Secret Service is going to have to pry those things apart if they want to check the plugs. And then other than that, I think we're going to add one more community-based event on Stroll Sunday. Actually, we're looking at doing a community Santa skate at the ice rink, and that would be a Sunday afternoon. So very much aimed at the local community, who we understand accommodates a lot of visitors and doesn't, obviously when Santa arrives on Saturday, it's a big to do, but not everyone can get to that. It is a Saturday, it is busy. So in combination with the ice rink looking to promote their space as an event space, and us wanting to provide something aimed at a little more of the local community, we're looking forward to having a holiday skate on the Sunday of Stroll. But again, much more aimed at the local family community than the off-island visitors. That's a
Right.
speak, but keep that under your hat. Just kidding. Public meeting.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Matt?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, you just reminded me of something with Santa Claus. I don't know if there's any messaging I would recommend getting out there for you guys because I know the last couple of years, a lot of parents like take the kids down there to see Santa Claus is exciting, and then try to get a picture. But then you have 50 adults or 20 or 30-year-olds that are drinking nips and stuff in the line, and it takes forever. Kind of, I don't know if there's messaging or if you guys even want to put that out there. Just kind of, Santa Claus is really for the kids. Because I've tried a couple of years to get in there, but the line gets so long, and the majority of it's all adults in the line. So just a frustrated parent sometimes.
It's interesting messaging. I hadn't heard that before, and I'd be happy to take that into consideration. Obviously, regarding the alcohol as well, our board is very cognizant that, again, going back to the tradition, our responsibility is to make sure stroll can happen for the next 40 years, the next 50 years. And that includes, educating our stores that, if they want to have a tasting of any kind, the permitting process. And we've worked with Amy in the past, the past 3 or 4 events to make sure that we're providing, lead times that she needs to see from her office and the health department with food and all that. So again, from an educational standpoint, we're not saying don't drink. I know that's just a reality that people, have beverages when they're over here. I think our messaging definitely needs to be, as a reminder, unlike the special ordinance we have in Daffodil, there is no, public consumption. Like, we can do that type of messaging just to remind people that, consumption in the streets is not allowed, because I see it, I have eyes too. But I want to make sure we are providing the appropriate language and encouraging responsible behavior.
Okay. There's no other messages or questions from the committee. I do see we have Jason from the public. If Jason has any questions, this is the time when he can pose the questions, and just you can feel free to identify yourself for the recording. If hearing none.
Nope, I'm all set. Thanks, Mary.
Alrighty. Thanks, Jason. Peter, thank you so much for being here this morning. I know it's early, it's October, but we love weather like this. Let's not rain again on Saturday.
This is Chamber of Commerce weather. It's great.
If you have some control over that, I think a lot of the brides would appreciate it. But thanks so much. Peter, you're more than welcome to stay on for the rest of our meeting, but if not.
I appreciate the offer. I'll take off, but if anyone has any questions, follow up, just please, email me, peter@nantucketchamber.org. Call me. All the info's on the website. I would love to hear any inputs. And tell anyone that couldn't make this meeting, if there's anyone missing, that I'm more than happy to have any contact with anyone and field ideas and
Perfect.
Village.
Thank you, Peter. We look forward
Thanks
to
for your
maybe
help.
hearing from you in the spring about 2024.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Peter.
Okay, moving right along on the agenda. If I can find it. The next item is the director's report. Chantal, any updates, any information, anything that you would like to share?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I am working on. Sorry about that. I'm working on a digitized or a virtual reality walking tour that you can basically access on your cell phones or whatever electronic device you're bringing to the island. It's essentially going to accompany the printed ones that we have here, but trying to make it a little bit more fun. So if you do the, let's say the Black walking trail, for example, because that's the one I've most recently looked at, and there would be a voice that's walking you through the tour. So you're getting it's still a self-guided tour. You can go to the different sites, click on the fellow that's on there, he pops up and he gives you information about that space. Same thing with the historic house tour map that we have, that is also a self-guided walking tour. You can do the same thing with that. I'm actually doing a demo with a company today at 2 o'clock with one of our communications, with our communications manager. to see how that platform would work for Nantucket. So stay tuned on that. We're probably going to be doing a number of demos over the next few months before we put it out to bid, depending on the cost of it. And then, as promised, access to the Placer AI platform has begun. So I have a little bit of data. I'm still working my way through that platform. It has so much information on there, and I'm trying to figure out what information is most relevant for us and for you guys. And of course, trying to figure out really how to put it all into one basic report. So I'll go over the month of September just to keep it short and sweet. We had about 235,000 visits, which translates to 75.5 thousand visitors. Some of them traveling to the island as much as 3 times over the month of September. This, interestingly enough, as surprising as that number was to me, it's actually down 20.9% from last year. The busiest times on the island are between 10 a.m. and 7 p.m. So we're still seeing, the heavy day tripping times. And then, of course, Friday through Monday being the busiest days of the week, with Wednesday being the slowest. We're seeing folks coming in majority from Logan, LaGuardia, Barnstable, New Bedford, New York, and JFK, which is where they're starting their journey to Nantucket. And then the busiest locations on the island are Cisco Brewers and Crew in 2nd and 3rd place, but Stop and Shop being the #1 busiest by about 3 times those numbers. Shocker. So I thought those were some interesting data. I'm working on geo-fencing the different historic sites on the island so that we can get information about those spaces. I have the Whaling Museum geofenced. I went through all of the NHA properties. I'm now working on Mariah Mitchell properties, and I had a little bit of issue with the observatory, so I'm fighting with the platform to get that geofenced appropriately. I had the airport geofenced, but I'm working on tightening it up a little bit because it's funny we know what we call the airport, but when you really look at the property that the airport owns, it's so vast. And I'm like, no, we don't need to know what's happening at the gas station in the airport data. Just tighten it up a little bit. So I'm working on just cleaning up all of the data, because as you can imagine, there's so much out there. So stay tuned as the months go on and I learn more about the platform. It'll hopefully get more interesting, and then we'll figure out what we're doing with all of this information. Happy to answer any questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Chantal. Niles, you have a question?
I do, just for Chantal, on curious how long you've been doing that with the geofencing. Is that a new initiative, or is that happening?
We just got access to it early September.
Okay, so brand new.
However, the data goes back 5 years. So.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Peter?
Chantal, is this the data platform, the Nantucket data platform, or is it a different vendor you're working with?
This is a different vendor.
Okay. I just wanted to, for what it's worth, offer to, read what you're writing as you go through this stuff, because I've had a lot of experience working with these concepts of data fencing and all the stuff with a data platform. Thinking through what you can do with it. So whatever you write up, run it by me, and I'll be happy to give you a careful read and some comments and ideas.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Interestingly enough, I tried reaching out to the data platform when I first came on in this role, and I never got a response. So I started exploring other options.
I can understand.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you,
right.
yes, I'd appreciate the help. Thank you.
Matt, did you have a question?
Yeah, 2 quick questions. One on the audio tour, just curious if what have you thought about for narration? I just popped in my mind. I thought it'd be kind of cool, get some local, like Nantucket, almost celebrities or something like that. Just have some really fun narration on those. And then second question, real quick, is just are you tracking both Stop and Shops as well? And is there a huge difference between the two as far as traffic? Because I know as a local, so there's a lot of times where I'll just go downtown if I'm just getting a couple things, because usually it's easier and quicker than Mid-Island. So
So first question, We have a lot of great ideas for who the people that we think we would like to narrate it, and we're hoping to branch out a lot into the community, because I think that would only be appropriate if Nantucketers are telling the history of Nantucket. So yes to that, and stay tuned. I'll be coming back to you guys with a list of places from these tours and asking for suggestions from you as well. And then we are tracking both Mid-Island and downtown Stop and Shop, and it is a drastic difference. I think it's about 50% difference.
And
Yes.
Sarah?
Yeah, Chantal, you may have said this at a previous meeting, because I know when you first talked about using this data platform, but I'm curious, is it available island wide, and then you can put the fencing around like areas that you're particularly interested in, or is it limited in its availability?
So it's available island wide. So right now we have the entire, how it started, I got the entire island geofenced. And then I had to go in and plug in specific locations to get access to those. They were kind enough to geofence like the Mid-Island area for me, and then the town of Sconset itself, and then Matticat itself, but that was really the extent of it, unfortunately. So now I'm going in and plugging in the different locations.
And is that something that like other groups could like request, or or is it like you have a limited number of geofences that you can put on with the, how it works with the company or whomever that
It's
you?
not limited. We can geofence our hearts out if we wanted to. If people have spaces that they're particularly interested in, just let me know, and we can tag that location. The only issue, if it's a lower trafficked area, it might not have the information available. That's something I'm running into. So then it starts pulling from nearby locations. So working that out with the company for one location right now. But if people want the information, I'm happy to share it.
Great. I think I would put a plug in, Mary, for Shantash, like showcasing some of the data, like what it looks like and what you can get out of it. I think that'd be great to see.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think as you move forward with this learning curve and getting it fine-tuned to make it easy for supposedly the customer to buy and and get involved, I think that would be wonderful to a rollout in the spring for what Visitor Services is doing for local businesses. I mean, I think that there's a whole campaign there just to get that message out. And then obviously we are a town department, so all the more reason that everyone can be involved, as opposed to just a membership-based group. So I would encourage that as we move through the winter and into the spring to do a nice rollout. Anything else for Chantal? Matt, your hand's still up. Yep.
Oh, you're muted.
Muted.
Sorry, I don't know a lot about geofencing. I was just kind of reading about it. We were talking, but so can anybody kind of do this? Like, how do you guys kind of break through if like the real estate agents have geofencing on the island as well? I'm not sure, or is it just, do you have rights to the geofencing? Is there rights to the island, or is it just anybody? And how do you get your message to break through like the real estates or something like, the real estate ads and all that kind of stuff? Just curious.
So we don't own the rights to geofencing. There are a lot of platforms that offer data that uses geolocation to gather the information. If there's a real estate company on the island that wanted to go out and pay for this platform on their own, we can't say no. They're welcome to it. It's a very pricey platform, admittedly, so I think that alone will deter people from wanting to do it. And it took some serious grant writing and partnerships to get access to this information cost-wise. But I'm hoping that as I learn more about it and as was suggested, present how the information can be useful to the different sectors on the island, that more people will be interested in accessing the data. Because I mean, it can inform how hotels are being run. As Peter was talking about the restaurant week, I'm thinking it can help inform how the next restaurant week could go, because I'm interested in pulling just that week alone and seeing how much that week affected traffic on the island. And I'm sure we could find that, based on the restaurant visits, that it would affected it in some way, shape, or form. It's going to help us determine, even for town departments like DPW, what are the most high trafficked streets, and what do they need? Also for retail, there's a whole retail sales section that I'm looking at that tells us visitor spends on the island, where they're spending, how much they're spending in each location, how much time they're spending in your stores, and things like that. And that, of course, will branch out into how we market the island as a whole, and how those different businesses are attracting their customers. And it can break down their customer information down to household size, do they have a dog, how much money are they making, like level of education, that sort of thing. Like, it's kind of wild. I feel like I'm sitting here, God forgive me for saying this, I feel like I'm sitting here playing God with all this data. So
Yeah,
So-
Matt.
Yes, thank you. So you guys are also looking at this as a revenue stream as well for the town, and possibly to beef up like some budgets and visitor services as well. Is that a possibility there too?
Exactly. I have our office and our kiosks geotagged, so we can see how many people are popping into each location. It's also, I have all of our public restrooms geotagged, interestingly enough, because we know they all need a little bit of work. So this will help me with my case that the bathrooms need work. If we can actually say, there were 3,000 people in the first 3 hours of the bathroom being open, or how often they need to be cleaned, that sort of thing. So yeah.
Right.
Peter? Peter, you're muted.
Sorry, the geofencing is done based on, the basis of the measures is cell phone data?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. I know a whole lot about how that stuff works, not how you do it, but it's really a very, very powerful, way of getting instantaneous readings on where crowds are, like geofencing around the Stop and Shop means if you walk in and you got your cell phone with you, it's going to say you're inside that geofence, and it could be the parking lot, the whole thing, and you can see how many people there are, how many different people there were over a unit of time. Very powerful stuff. And I think I want to, second the suggestion that, we put some of the interesting stuff up on the web that Visitor Services has about this. And one of the things that I'd be really interested in is the data on the Stop and Shop, just to say that by orders of magnitude is the busiest place, maybe at the largest number of hours, because that really is, when you think about it, it's the place where we all mingle and mix, which is, when you think about it again, unique to Nantucket. That doesn't happen in cities, small cities, medium cities, large cities. Anyhow, great idea, and call on me if you have any technical questions, because I know something about it, what the limitations are.
Thank you.
And any other questions for Shanta? Matt?
Yeah, sorry, it's brain spinning now, and I'm probably going to a little bit of a rabbit hole, but how do we because I also can kind of see a bad kind of downside of this as well, as far as a little too much tracking. I mean, is there a good balance? How do we keep some accountability on the town that, we're not tracking certain neighborhoods, things like that, looking for overpopulation, looking for overcrowding in houses and things like that? I mean, I get to see this going in many different directions, and just want to make sure,
So
I know I don't really have much power over that, but it's just an interesting, I don't want to see it abused either.
Mhm. So I'm the only person in the town that has access to it as of right now. Noah will likely be gaining access if he wants, but he's asked that I just send him the data for the portions that he needs. But for us to be able to track, to basically geofence individual households to see how many people are in it, we would probably need to hire about 15 people. Because just fencing the historic sites on the island is it's going to take me probably months to just sit down and do those, because it's so much work to do it. That's not the intent of the access to this platform. I personally wouldn't feel comfortable doing that for a number of reasons. The town isn't interested in the information for that either. It's simply to personally how I wanted to use it, and how Noah, because Noah and I decided to go into this together, was to attract visitors to the island and see how we can best meet their needs. That is really the purpose of it as it stands right now. So as far as abuse of it, I'm sure, I appreciate that question. I'm sure it could happen, but we don't have the manpower to even begin to think about how to even abuse it. So don't worry about that. As long as I have access to it, I will happily delete this platform if it comes to that.
Yeah. Shanta, I have one question about the financing and the funding for this. Is there enough money in the budget and moving forward, or is this an additional line item that you're going to add?
So I do have
for
enough.
next year.
Like I said, I'm splitting the bill with the airport and or the remainder of the bill, and there's a good portion of it that's being covered by a grant from the Massachusetts Cultural Council.
Okay, good. Let's keep those grants coming. Because we
Plan
need,
on it.
yeah, I know. All right, nothing else for Chantal. Let's move on. David, Visitor Services Coordinators Report.
Yes, the stats I provided for September, you mentioned that overall this new tracking thing, that it was down 20% over last September. It kind of dovetails with this. If you can see, the overall visitors for our office and for all three locations was 5584, down from 6845 last year. I can say that with the Straight Wharf kiosk, it was only open half of September because I had people away and not being able to staff that as much as I would like. So I think we would have gotten to about roughly 2,500, 3,000 people for the month of September if the kiosk was fully open every day through the month of September. But in general, we were pretty busy, particularly with the day trippers, a lot, like especially on Monday and Wednesday. There were a lot of tours that were coming in for the day, a lot of guided tours. Then, pretty much everything is self-explanatory there. We're transitioning into October here. Staff is, some of my summer staff have left for the season, going back home, and then I expect a few more in October and November. So we'll be starting to go into our winter mode, and we'll probably be closed on Sundays in November going forward, and then the after stroll will be Monday through Friday until April. And I don't have any other info for you at this point, but I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
I have a question about travel and lodging brochure.
Yes.
With the Lodging Association not seem to be energized yet, do you see a problem with them participating as individual inns or not?
Really, basically what I've been doing the last few years is communicating directly with the inns or whoever's in charge and having them doing the updates. When we do that, it takes a couple months for it to get it finished, but in general they've been very cooperative as individual properties, and I've had we've had no issues with getting the travel and lodging brochure together each year.
Okay, good, because obviously it benefits them as well as us. So I think that's essential for visitors. I noticed on the September you had mailings that seemed to be
Yeah.
Was that a group mailing
Well,
or?
one of them was there was a request for 30 travel and lodging brochures for a travel agency, I think in Rhode Island.
Okay, that makes sense. I just noticed that number sort of jumped off the page. All right. Anything else? David, anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you. I do have one question, Shanta. Are we having another member join this group? I know it was, I think, discussed at the last meeting.
Yes, Garrison Beal has officially been I forgot the proper term. I'm sorry, my brain just shut down now. But he's officially a member of the group. He just couldn't make it to this meeting, but he should be at the next one.
Okay,
We do have a member from lodging.
perfect. All right, anything else? Anyone else have any other comments?
Okay.
Matt?
Yeah, just wanted to say I had a great time at the Chambers end of the year party with David and all the member services ladies. And so we got a great picture taken. So hopefully David's got it all framed and on his desk. No, I'm just joking, but no, it was a good time. It's fun. So
Oh, there's the picture.
I'm always impressed how fat my face can look.
All right. Any other business for today? And then we need to probably discuss how we want to move forward. I'll talk to Shanta and David about next month's meeting and see who we should invite. I know we had a couple of candidates, so I didn't know. You can reach out and see if it's appropriate now as a wrap up or if some of them should be, a little later on. David?
I'm working on trying to get Phil Scudder to be in our November meeting, and have not heard back directly from Phil, but hopefully we can get him on there, and I'll let you know if
Yeah,
there are any
I think that would be great. A lot of us have known Phil for a number of years, so I'd
Let
love
me
to see him. Yes. Thanks, Liz. You can
I can,
convince him. Yes.
Yes.
Encourage him. Yeah.
Yeah, I've reached out to Betsy to as well to kind of kick him and get him going, but both maybe you two can remind him.
Okay. All right. Anything else for today? All right. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, Niles. Second.
Okay.
Matt. All right. Thank you all. Good meeting. What time is it? It is 8:56. We're doing good.
I see.
Thank you all. See you next month.
Okay.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Mary.